Hey guys, this is Shiny Zekrom, and doing a little bit of a post-commentary this time, unfortunately, because my mic was unplugged the whole battle. I want to keep the original battle and not just record the replay, because I'd rather say, what I'm thinking at the time. So here we go. So, I'm fighting Yashu, Coach Yashu of the Victory Stars. This is the finale, everybody, the final battle. He did not bring Zygar, but he brought Celesteela, Megalopony, Alolan Persian, Toxapex, Rotom Heat, and the Gourgeist. I brought Kyurem, Seismitoad, Buzzwole, Magnezone, Mew, and Darmanitan. I was having trouble thinking about who I wanted to start here, but I said from turn 1 I wanted to try and get Stealth Rocks up. But immediately, right here, I'm like, I know Alolan Persian gets Grass Knot, I need to switch out because I'm not losing, Seismitoad turn 1. And then I lose my Stealth Rocks, which is chip damage and getting rid of Focus Sash and stuff. So I felt Buzzwole was going to be my best switch in because think can't really do too much with Grass Knot. He instead just decides to go for Parting Shot here. A good play on his part, switch out, get an advantage on who he wants. I was scared because, Megalopony could easily come in here and just go for like Bounce or Fire Punch or something. He instead switches in this Toxapex. Now right here I said I don't want to get Scald Burn because I knew Buzzwole was going to be important for later. So my best Scald switching, I said, was going to be I decided to switch in Frogger here after I decided a little bit. I wanted to switch in Frogger because I could bluff the Water Absorb, as well as Scald wouldn't just do too much to me in general. He instead switches things up and actually goes for a knockoff on me. That really surprised me. He gets rid of my leftovers, which doesn't matter too much in the long run, but good thing I decided to do that instead of keeping Buzzwole in. So I decided to just go for Rocks, as he's going to go for a Toxic here. Good play on his part, and good play on my part to set up on Stealth Rock. Now, later on, this is going to come into play here. I said Defog's Miracle was his only way to get rid of Rocks. I said Rapid Spin at some point, I think. I meant Defog, but I kind of forgot a certain member that he does have on his team can actually learn Defog thanks to Ultra Sun and Ultra Mew. So I decided Mew was going to be my next best switch in. As he goes into Gourgeist here, he frisks and was able to find out that I was Normalium Z, but he has no idea what move I'm running to trigger Normalium Z. I decided to go for Will-O-Wisp because in case he was a physical Gourgeist, or switched in like a Megalopony, or even switched in Celesteela and he had like physical move on it. I felt it was going to be my best because it's also a little chip damage and, as we're going to see in a moment, it'll cancel out his leftovers. He sets up a Leech on me, which is a good play on his part. So I decided to switch in, after a little bit, I decided to switch in Darmanitan. I wanted to not only get rid of Leech Seed, but in case he had a Ghost move, I didn't want Mew to be whittled down that much. So he does indeed actually go for the Shadow Ball, and unfortunately gets a special defense drop. So my main thing is I wanted to switch in Darmanitan because I wanted to scare him off. That was my big thing. So here I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. Because I could easily set up Sub, I could go for Will-O-Wisp predicting a switch, I could just attack it with Fire Punch, Rock Slide predicting Toxapex, anything of that nature. So what I decided to do, once I decided to do it, I was really thinking, what did I want to do here? I decided to set up Substitute, which actually ended up being a great idea. He switches, giving me the free Substitute, and he switches into Rotom Heat, which was great, because, as we'll see, I had enough speed to outspeed him, that's what I was saying around here, I had enough speed to outspeed, so I decided to click Rock Slide, because nothing on his team really resisted it, just that it wouldn't take as much damage, but I felt Rock Slide would be good because, hey, I get some really good chip damage on this thing, and could possibly knock it right out. So that is what I ultimately decided to do, Rock Slide. So as he switches into Toxapex, which is what I was not surprised with, as I do about a quarter of his HP with that. So here, I'm, again, trying to think, because I'm trying to make every move as I can slowly, but making sure I make the right move. So, my move here, once I pick it, I'll explain it. I decided to click Rock Slide. I didn't want to switch because I didn't want to waste the substitute I had up. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I missed the Rock Slide, which is a chance of a flinch and is damage. So, it kind of gets in his favor, but ultimately I switch back into Seismitoad. Good choice, because he goes for the knockoff again, trying to get rid of Darmanitan's leftovers, or anything's item really, upon switching. And I switch in Frogger, whose leftovers were already gone at this point. So, somewhat of a good switch in on my part there. And I end up going for a Scald, because I just wanted to get some damage or maybe a burn. And that's where, of course, he shows the typical leftovers. So this is where I ultimately thought Mew was a good switch in here. I had the Super Fang, which can half his HP right off the bat. And even with knockoff, he doesn't get rid of a Normalium Z, so there was no point. So I decided to go for the Super Fang, because unless he switches Gourgeist in, something is losing half of its current HP. And especially with Stealth Rocks, nice switch in. I was also thinking between Heal Bell, as you can see, because I was unsure as to whether or not I wanted to get rid of the Toxic that was on Seismitoad there. I ultimately decided to go for Super Fang because I wanted to get this Toxapex down to half its HP. So I do that, sets up a Toxic, my Synchronize activates, but of course because he's Water Poison type, he will not get poisoned. So, Heal Bell. I decided to go for it, get rid of 2 Toxics. And there we go. Now my Mew's not toxic, and my Seismitoad isn't toxic, as he switches into his Alolan Persian. Here, I decided, once I pick it, I don't want to get ahead, I go for the Super Fang. As he goes for the Toxic, which ultimately Synchronize brings it back to him. And so not only does he take half of that current HP he has, but he takes a turn of toxic damage. So this is where I ultimately decided to use Seismic Toss, because I get some HP off of anything, at least 100 HP, because that's, of course, the level we're playing at, level 100. So, as said, I go for Seismic Toss because I felt, you know, I get some chip damage on anything as long as the Gourgeist doesn't come in. So, and he decides to Parting Shot again. He switches in his Rotom, which is kind of a bad choice because he goes really low. And at this point, I believe he was at 22% HP. So he actually, he wouldn't be able to switch in again if he switched out his Rotom Heat. Because it dies to 25% Stealth Rock damage at 22% HP. This is where I go for the Z Heal Bell. I figured I would get rid of the Toxic on Mew, and I would fully heal my HP back, as he does reveal, as I was hinting towards, the Defog Rotom that I forgot about. So my Z Heal Bell, I heal all the way my HP, I get rid of the Toxic on Mew, and I'm sitting here at 100%, like, I'm feeling confident. His Rotom Heat, because of leftovers, gets back up to 28%, which does mean he can live a Stealth Rock switch in later on. He decides to just simply go for the Volt Switch, as he can't really do anything to this Mew with this Rotom, because he knows my entire set at this point, bar Will-O-Wisp, I think. So he goes for Volt Switch, and he's trying to think what he wants to do here. He switches into Celesteela, which takes a Seismic Toss, 25%. Okay, so I see no item here, so I was like, okay, this is my chance. And I switch in the Magnet Pole Magnezone with the Air Balloon, as he goes for the Leech Seed. So I said, no choice, Thunderbolt right here. As he goes for the Protect, as he gets 13% back HP because of that, I go for Thunderbolt again, and he reveals the Wakan Berry, which ultimately scares Magnezone a lot, because as you see here, he goes for the Flamethrower and gets me to really low HP. As I go for, Thunderbolt, and it doesn't do much back to him, and he gets the recovery from Leech Seed. So this is where I switch in Darmanitan, as he tries to protect again, to try and whittle Magnezone down really low. Which ultimately, I think he would have, even if he was fully specially defensive and everything, I don't think I would have KO'd the Celesteela. So here, I'm trying to decide, do I want to burn it, do I want to substitute? And I decided to substitute. Good thing, because he tries to Leech Seed me, and it doesn't work, because, Leech Seed doesn't work past a substitute. So as you see here, we are on turn 24, as I'm going to actually Will-O-Wisp here. The reason I wanted to Will-O-Wisp is I figured get some, thing on the Celesteela so it's chipping it, even with Protect, is chipping that HP down, and if he sets up like a Leech Seed, not as much. As I just go for a Rock Slide to try and get a little chip damage on the Toxapex here, as I go for a Rock Slide, and he goes for Scald to break my sub. Same thing applied there. I didn't want my substitute to be wasted if I just switched out, so I decided to go with the Rock Slide, so he'd break my sub with Scald. So I switch in Slide and Toad here, and he goes for another Toxic, which is a good play. So because I noticed he does not have Stealth Rocks on the field, I figured Stealth Rocks here would be the play to be. Set them back up, make sure I'm getting that continual chip damage on things, and break any potential sashes, which were all broken. So he decides to switch in the Gourgeist here to scare me out, which will work, as I will say here, as he gets leftovers but burn damage. So essentially, and I said around this point that, even though the burn and leftovers are canceling out, he's still losing HP every time he switches in Gourgeist, because he's losing 12% to Stealth Rock, which is exactly why I want those Stealth Rocks, slowly whittle down HP. So I'm deciding who I want to switch in here. And this is the one time ever in a battle where I actually scrolled up. The reason is I wanted to see what he did last time when Gourgeist, this situation happened. I saw, okay, I switch in, he just went for Shadow Ball. So I figured here, I'm trying to think who I want to switch in. So Darmanitan was my choice. He just goes for the Leech Seed here. That's all. Good choice, because he whittles down the HP. After leftovers, of course. So, same thing, I was trying to think of what I want to do here. And I figured, go for Fire Punch this time. Try and get some damage off on this thing, or anything really. As he switches in Toxapex, and Fire Punch. Now, main thing is, okay, don't want to take Scald damage, and I also need to get rid of this Leech Seed. Mew is basically the switch into this Toxapex every single time. So you're going to see, I'm going to keep switching in. So he gets a crit here with Scald, which still doesn't really do too much. So I'm thinking, what do I want to do? Yeah, thinking, what do I want to do? As I ultimately go for Super Fang here, try and get his HP down by half, and with leftovers and burn, those two cancel each other out, so I'm not doing too much damage. Or, not recovering too much. As he reveals Recover here, which I did not see yet in the battle until now. So, I figured, like I said, Mew is the switch into this. I'm just going to keep Super Fanging, as he goes for Toxic here. Synchronize, though it fails, of course, because, Poison type, and he's already burned, for that matter. So, I just click Heal Bell, because I don't want Mew to lose that HP, because I used the Heal Bell here already. After I Heal Bell, he decides to go for the Recover, and, recover some HP. I go for the Super Fang again to lower him. He goes for Knock Off, maybe predicting a switch, that would be my guess. So I still decide to stay in. So I'm going for a Seismic Toss here, as to see if he decided to go for another move again. He just goes for Recover again, typical thing, a good choice on his part. As I said, I'm going to Super Fang again because I just want to weaken things. So I Super Fang, and he switches in Celesteela here. So I'm like, okay, I have a really, still kind of good matchup. So I go for Seismic Toss and get the Celesteela down to 7%. Very crucial there, he missed the Leech Seed. If that had hit, he would get up to 20%. Because he was at 7% at this point. And yeah. it would go up because of the 13% leech seed damage. He gets up to 20%. He protects here, which could have gotten him up to 32%, which 32 or 33, which ultimately he would have lived a seismic toss from that point. So here I'm like, I'm just gonna go seismic toss again, no reason not to, and I finally pick up the first kill of this match. 39 turns in. It's a long battle, believe me. So yeah, Mew here gets the first kill of the battle with the seismic toss, because I figured, like I said, it's chip damage on something. Something's going to take 100 HP of damage from this seismic toss. No reason not to go for it. He switches in his Alolan Persian here. As I said, you know, seismic toss again. More chip damage and stuff. So he goes for parting shot again. I somewhat, at least in my head, if I didn't say it out loud, I'm like, why? Because his Alolan Persian keeps getting low. So he finally switches in Gourgeist, and here's where Seismic Toss fails, because, you know, fighting type move on a Ghost type. I was really surprised he did not think to switch this thing in a while ago, because he could have easily stopped stuff. So as it kind of became, Darmanitan was pretty much the switch into this Gourgeist every time. Because I can threaten Fire Punch, I could threaten Substitute, anything really. He just goes for a Shadow Ball on the switch, which is nice because he gets damage off on anything he pretty much wants, seeing as I don't have a normal type. And yeah. So I decide again, Fire Punch, because, you know, hits everything pretty hard except for like Toxapex and Rotom Heat. But I'm trying to attack the thing that's in front of me. So I just go for a Fire Punch again. Recover a little bit thanks to leftovers, and his leftovers and burn cancel each other out. As I'm going to switch into Mew, as I said, because Mew is my switch into this every time. So he Scalds here, and he gets the first burn, synchronized of course because he's already burned. And this is where I said, I need to get rid of the burn, because I need to make sure I have no status on this thing. So I Heal Bell, I get rid of Mew's burn, and here, I knew he had Shadow Ball, so there was nothing I wanted to really, whatchamacallit. I didn't want Mew to take this Shadow Ball, because I knew I needed it for the Toxapex. So, my choice here I was like actually taking a while to think about this. Even with special defense investment, Buzzwole wasn't good for this. Darmanitan I didn't want to go down, so I decided to sack Magnezone. Celesteela being down, Magnezone pretty much had served its purpose in this battle. Sure, it could have been to take on the Toxapex, especially because he had no electric type, really. So, yeah. So I decided to sack Magnezone because I felt, you know, he was the least useful member at this point. I decided to go for Rock Slide as he switches in his Rotom Heat and just pretty much ends up sacking this off. And even if he decided to stay in with Rotom Heat, if I missed a Rock Slide, he would have died. If he switched out, Rotom Heat would have died next switch in. So he switches into his Alolan Persian and reveals the Aguav Berry. Heals himself back up. So at this point, I'm just trying to think what I wanted to do. So I decided to go for Rock Slide just as another, you know, I need to get chip damage in on something. I go for Rock Slide, get a little bit of chip damage onto the Toxapex here. And as per usual, come on. As per usual, I switch back in Mew. He goes for the Toxic here, as, you know, Synchro fails yet again because he's burned in. He'd be Poison type anyways. So here, I said, I need to Heal Bell. I need Mew to be as much HP as possible, so I Heal Bell. He goes for Scald, gets a little bit of damage. And we're currently up 5-4, so I decided to go for Super Fang to get this thing down to half HP. He Scalds, he brings me down to 6% and unfortunately gets the burn. What this means is 6% damage from the burn, Mew is down. It is a tied battle now. I thought here, who was my best? I didn't want to send in Darmanitan because I wouldn't be able to kill, and if I don't flinch with Rock Slide, he can recover. Seismitoad didn't have anything for this. Kyurem, I wanted to preserve as much HP on that thing as possible. So, eventually, I said, even with, like, I was thinking here, Ice Beam, and he still has Toxapex to switch into that. Earth Power, he could easily switch Gourgeist into that. Focus Blast, you know, Gourgeist as well, and Toxapex. And the Shadow Ball wasn't going to do much. So I eventually decided Buzzwole here. And I said to myself, even though he has, the best move I have to go here would be just attack what's in front of me and use Earthquake. Gourgeist was his only switching pretty much to Earthquake at this point because Celesteela was gone and his Rotom Heat's gone. So he has no Flying type, no Levitate Pokemon, he only has a thing to resist. He actually stays in with the the Toxapex, and I Earthquake and end up scoring a kill. This is good. So he switches in his Alolan Persian here. And I knew he was going to Parting Shot because there's no way he would want to switch in or stay in against this. So I figured, what was the thing to take it the best? That'd be Seismitoad. Seismitoad was my best option to be able to take that Parting Shot. So that way he would... Because Seismitoad was pretty much kind of just a sack at this point. As he switches in the Gourgeist here, takes some Stealth Rock damage, and the... Leftovers burn cancellation. So I figured at this point, I'm like, you know what, I might as well just Ice Punch. There's no reason for me to switch anything into a Shadow Ball at this point. I'm just going to Ice Punch, chip damage this thing a little bit, and let Frogger go down. There was no point. So eventually, come on me. I was trying to think also what would be more useful. And I figured, in the end, just attack and try and get Ice Punch damage, chip down whatever comes in. And I end up being faster, which is a little surprising. So he reveals Giga Drain, which was not revealed on this thing yet. He recovers some HP and Leftovers burn cancellation. So I thought, no choice, he has nothing to resist Ice Beam at this point. Just fire off Ice Beam. That's why I was mainly talking and showing my pointer at the Pokemon, is I'm like, he has nothing to take Ice Beam. So he decides to sack off his Alolan Persian here to Ice Beam. So we're up 3-2 right now. It is a very intense battle. Either one of us two could win at this point. So, in a moment we'll see. Now I was thinking to myself, he can't switch in Gourgeist because that dies to an Ice Beam. Mega Lopunny is pretty much his only switch in at this point to cure him. Because fighting move threatens me out, and yeah. I think I was also discussing scenarios on how I won the battle at this point. And I pretty much had this battle on lockdown, because I knew what I would switch into these two in any situation, with the 3 I had remaining. So he decides to switch in Mega Lopunny, aka Mega Lopunny. So I thought to myself here, you know, I can't risk the fighting move on Kyurem if I don't kill with Ice Beam. Titano is too low to take hits. And I said Buzzwole was my switch into this thing. As you can see here, he goes for the Drain Punch, recovers a little bit of HP after dealing 10% to me. Even though it said 11, it was actually only 10. So I was thinking, Drain Punch, Drain Punch, Drain Punch, attack what's in front of me. But I'm like, can't, because he can easily switch in Gourgeist here. So last second change here, I'm like, Rock Slide, yeah. Earthquake, no. Ice Punch was the play. Because if he switches in Gourgeist, which he actually did here, it would have been better because Drain Punch would have been stopped and it would have forced a switch. So the Ice Punch prediction actually kind of saved. So it's 3-1. I'm almost the champion. So what I thought here is, I need Drain Punch on Buzzwole, not Ice Punch. I was scared Ice Punch would not be able to 2-hit KO, and he'd be able to find a way to kill Buzzwole. So I decided to switch in Darmanitan to sack it off pretty much. And it ends up kind of being a little bit of a bad play because he reveals the Power Up Punch. So now he's at +1 Mega Lopunny, and he, after the battle I found out, well actually I won't say that, but because I didn't know that during the battle. I'm like, oh no. So I decided to Fire Punch again because I'm like, I need to sack Darmanitan off. So it's 2-0 and he could easily force a, whatchamacallit, he could easily kill me here. But I'm like, oh my god. I was thinking I'm a defensive Buzzwole. All I need to do is live a hit with Buzzwole, go for the Drain Punch, I knock out the Mega Lopunny, and we are the champions of the SBL. I was so hoping, I'm so hoping. And I'm wondering what's going on here. This I'll say because it's the end of the battle. He was calcing to see what would do more. He had a Fire Punch on it, Drain Punch, Power Up Punch, and Return. He was trying to see if Return or Fire Punch was actually going to do more damage to me. But it ends up as, I'll say in a minute. So yeah, he's calcing to try and figure out what's going to do the most damage here. Return or the Fire Punch. But yeah, all I needed to do was live the hit, Drain Punch would knock it out. If not, I was very scared if Scarf Kyurem was going to kill this. He goes for Return, we live it, we go for the Drain Punch, we knock out the Mega Lopunny, and we are the Season 3 SBL champions. I can't believe it. I'd like to thank you guys for watching throughout the entire season and watching this all go down. And I can't believe we did it. We won. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in future videos to come. See you guys then.